Namaskar and a very good afternoon to all of you. A very, very good afternoon, respected Professor Mittal, respected Professor Raj Singh, who are our distinguished speakers, senior colleagues from iNurture, our highly committed faculty members across different partner campuses, our dear students, and all other members of the audience who have joined us today. A very, very warm welcome. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this industry academia conclave on Education 4.0, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. India assumed G20 presidency on December 1st, 2022, and as a microcosm for the world, India's G20 presidency will work to promote this universal sense of oneness. Hence, our theme, One Earth, One Family, One Future, is on the principles of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. This three-day conclave on Education 4.0 covers various strands, and these 2 days shall be spent on discussing key issues of internationalization of education and future of work and importance of lifelong learning. One of the sessions being covered today and the second being covered tomorrow, which is the third day of the conclave. And we are so excited to begin day 2 of our conclave on internationalization of education, a key theme for the G20 working group and the principal recommendation of NEP 2020, which is a document we are so proud of and we are so enthusiastic about implementing in all walks of life in academia. And I'm so honored and thankful that we have amongst us two exceptionally gifted knowledge professionals who, with their powerful intellect and their enthusiastic dialogue, shall keep us engrossed and enriched for the next hour. In order to present the formal introductions and take forward the proceedings for the day, I invite their academic director, Dr. Sagar Gulati, to continue from here.
As already mentioned by our CLO, today's theme is internationalization of education. We are on day 2 of this conclave. The world we live in today is very vastly different from what it was a few years ago. Technology has brought people closer, and world is now more connected than ever. Job markets are also consistently changing and evolving, and demands a new skill set for our students. In this context, the need for internationalization of education cannot be overstated. The Global Education Monitoring Report 2021 states that education system need to embrace diverse approaches to learning and teaching, and more importantly, diverse ways of assessing learning outcomes if they are to ensure inclusion, equity, and quality. So one of the eminent personality has joined us, Professor Dr. Raj Singh. He is Vice Chancellor at Jain Deemed to be University, Bangalore, one of the finest universities in the country. Dr. Singh is an innovative academic leader and administrator with proven capability in designing industry-relevant programs in collaboration with industry and academia. He is a strong proponent of flexible education system in an inter and transdisciplinary setting. With 38 plus years of experience in education and administration, he has led some of the best institutions across the country. In the early years of his career, Professor Singh has served in the Indian Air Force and worked as founder head of the Institution of Chartered Financial Analysts of India. He has conducted research and published in the field of finance, accounting, strategy, and marketing. He graduated in mathematics and economics and took postgraduate qualifications in economics. He is a chartered financial analyst from Institute of Chartered Financial Analysts of India and a PhD from Maharishi Dayanand University, Rohtak, India. I welcome you, sir, and I request you to share your thoughts and enlighten the audience. Please, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sagar. Shraddha ma'am, all the distinguished members present today. Thank you for inviting me for this panel. While we wait for Dr. Mittal, a very, very senior and seasoned colleague who has been with NITR Chandigarh. The topic today is that how internationalization of education, which is one of the strong pillars of new national education policy, is going to play a role as we see during India's G20 presidency. So what I was thinking, how to connect these 2 points. And the best way I found was that how internationalization of education and education in general is going to be linked to contribution towards the Sustainable Development Goals of United Nations, the 2030 Agenda, as we call them popularly. And the theme for this particular summit, One Earth, One Family, One Future, which is also, I think, sounded in the G20 priorities of India, which says Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is the main theme of G20 presidency of India. So if you look at the priorities set by India, as the Prime Minister said that India G20 agenda will be inclusive, ambitious, action-oriented, and decisive. I think very, very powerful words. And if you look at the priority or the agenda set, and if they can be achieved in an action-oriented manner, I think we're there. The contribution of India will be very, very significant in the G20 group. So the first priority is, which India has set, is green development, climate finance, and life. Life, it's something which lifestyle for environment, which our own Prime Minister had highlighted at Glasgow summit of COP, which was on United Nations climate change agenda in November 2021. He had highlighted life, and which has become one of the priorities for India. The second priority which India has kept is accelerated, inclusive, and resilient growth. Growth in every sense, of course, economic growth, what we understand normally. And the third one is accelerating process on sustainable development goals of United Nations. The fourth priority which India has kept is technological transformation and digital public infrastructure to be created. The fifth one is multilateral institutions for 21st century. And this becomes particularly important in the current landscape of global activities, whether it is strategic equations or it's military equations or economic equations, particularly in view of post-COVID scenario in Europe and US and some of the other countries, and the Russia-Ukraine war going on. It becomes very, very pertinent as far as the role of multilateral institutions is concerned. As we are aware that the questions have been raised on the role of World Health Organization, some of the criticism of United Nations in handling these issues. So I think India has underlined the importance of very strong multilateral institutions for the 21st century as we see the world. And of course, the final priority which India has kept is women-led development. A very, very strong point for women empowerment, which of course been working for many, many years and decades. I think being in a priority list of G20 agenda underlines the importance of India as far as women empowerment is concerned. As you're aware that the G20, this is for the benefit of students who might have joined or the young faculty members. It consists of 19 countries and European Union, so the so-called G20, and it represents around 85% of the global GDP, over 75% of global trade, and about 2/3 of the world population. And that's why no surprise when our external affairs minister say that G5 is less relevant and G20 is more relevant in this context because of the sheer size it represents as far as economy, trade, and the population is concerned. And therefore, the agenda which has been kept is going to be very, very important, and the kind of impact it's going to create is huge. And therefore, I think for us, it's very, very important to understand that. Now, if you look at the education working group, which was established in 2018 during the Argentina's presidency, which I mentioned earlier and Sagar pointed out, it focused on strengthening the learning outcomes. Now, learning outcome is a very micro concept we learn in teaching learning these days. But can you imagine this learning outcome has been emphasized in the education working group of G20, and therefore it underlines the importance. We might ignore it in day-to-day working, but I think it has been discussed at the highest level. And it goes beyond that and says equitable access through technological tools Now, the technological tools have been emphasized in the priority list of India G20 agenda, that how do we create the infrastructure so that we are able to give access to quality education. Universal quality education has to be advocated, the financing has to be thought of, the partnerships have to be forged for education as far as international cooperation is concerned. All these points have been highlighted in the education working group. And one more important point which has been highlighted, apart from they working very closely with other working groups on employment and skills, it recently held its meeting that was in February 1st to 2nd in Chennai in 2023, this year itself. The deliberations focused on inclusive, equitable, relevant, and quality education, and of course, lifelong learning opportunities for all. These 5 points have been emphasized, which are very, very relevant, and they all have been reflected in the priority list, which I said. So taking over the presidency of G20 in 2023, India aims to work together with all the G20 countries to bridge the gap as far as the quality education and skilling is concerned, which has also been highlighted by the discussed in the education working group in February. Internationalization of education, to my mind, is something which should reflect interconnectedness of existence of people across the globe. That we exist somewhere, but we are interconnected through some thread. That is internationalization, according to me. And that is the unifying spirit of universal oneness, which you're talking about today. The second thing we could do is that in research, and research could be at the level of faculty or students, needs to be aligned with sustainable development goals. Now, the 17 SDGs, they give you a host of topics which require emphasis on research. That's where the funds are flowing from national and multinational organizations. It's very easy to align a research agenda with SDGs and therefore with the G20 priorities. We can link higher education of India, as I said, for the economic well-being of our people, which will ensure global peace and harmony. We can showcase India's achievement in terms of implementation of national education policy, because the world at large does not know what is happening in India. And to my mind, we never had such exciting times in education. At least I know for the last 30 years, I can vouch, never after independence, we had such exciting period as far as education is concerned, where professors are left with no choice except to act. We don't know where to look around. We have nothing to complain about. And the only option for us is to really act on these. What you're aiming at learning, don't look at only the basic concepts in any program. And this, my appeal is to students, not so much to the faculty members. Of course, they have a role to play. We should not be looking at grades and marks come out of this. Our focus should be on what we learn in tangible form, which makes us to do certain things which have global impact. Only then you can do it. And therefore, in terms of system and processes, align your priority areas to global issues. A very, very simple way of doing it, rather than digressing here and there to local and mundane kind of issues. We need to prioritize. To my mind, theoretical lectures are important. I'm not denying this fact. They need to be reduced drastically. In fact, whatever we do today, it should come down to 1/3 straight away. The only problem is that we get stuck at some level because we didn't take up ourselves with the skills which we required to acquire in the university days.
I think we can be thankful, sir, that National Credit Framework accommodates a component called experiential learning.
Yes.
And very soon we can expect that this LTP may get replaced with LPE. The tutorials having lesser focus may get eliminated and get substituted by the experiential learning.
See, P also means projects now. It's not only means practical, it also means project, and many more things will be added to this. Those additional 15 hours we have got, I think we'll definitely need to add one column. And one more thing we tried, Shraddha ma'am knows about it. When you make program structure, with each course you can integrate a skill.
Yes, sir.
I think that's a very, very important tool. Instead of skills being taught offline by somebody else in a different system, they need to be part of general education now. And
Absolutely.
very simply, it can be done that just, for example, quantitative methods or statistics, please include their Excel and advanced Excel, SPSS, SAS, depending on the level. You should teach some of the statistics classes on Excel. You can teach accounting on Tally or any other software. Who said that Tally should be separately acquired by the students? Let faculty learn it and let them work on this. The classroom has to change. Why can't the classroom be a computer lab where you learn on the software? You can also introduce students to certain databases, certain hardware, certain software, which are open source kind of softwares are there. Under each course, if you can start introducing that, believe me, the skill level of the students will go up drastically.
Under the guidance of Dr. Shraddha and Dr. Sujay, we are working very closely while we talk about the outcome-based education. We are very closely working. Not only we come up with the program outcomes, we are, as per the AICT guidelines, AICT exam reform policy, we are defining the core competency before every outcome, aligning the performance indicator to it, and we are continuously conducting the faculty development programs to ensure that our faculty members are aligned to it, so that the students should get the right set of education through the proper ways of doing it.
Fantastic.
I'm so very thankful, sir, that you spared so much of time, and now I'll request my colleague, Dr. Navdeep Barwal, to formally present a vote of thanks to Dr. Raj Singh and Dr. Helen Mittal in absentia.
And sir, Dr. Navdeep Barwal has been specially chosen because, we wanted him to connect with you.
I know,
I couldn't find him last time. So.
Yes. Yeah, thank you so much, Shraddha Madam, for that. Actually, last time you visited and I wasn't here. So anyhow, so it's my privilege actually to give vote of thanks at the closure of this session. First of all, of course, my thanks goes to Dr. Raj Singh, Professor Dr. Raj Singh, for sparing time and enriching us with his insightful thoughts on the topic. I mean, no words are good enough to say thanks to you. So formally, we are at the closure of this session. I thank all the audiences. So we'll see tomorrow again at 3 p.m. for our next session.